22 years back, the institute's vision was so high that might be 22 years later, the technology is going to take over and we should not be left behind. This is where we have actually moved towards over a period of time. People have gained the certificate that is knowledge, but now the wisdom to apply that knowledge is on the corners, and I 100%, I'm pretty confident that every chartered accountant is actually going to take this step forward and ensure that not only IT means income tax, IT means information technology, which is actually supporting the entire ecosystem of tax, governance, audit, accounting, and everything when you talk about with regards to the numbers across the board. And we are going to be relevant all throughout.
When AI is there, I was very much worried, and I was also very happy that such a big conference, what to speak and what not to speak. And I was thinking on this dais that whether my avatar can help me out in this situation. And friends, this is the testimony, this is the future. Whatever you are doing in your life, in your practice, in your job, all will be hit by AI. And for the 2 days, you have to note down what you are doing and what AI can do for you. With these words, thanks to all of you and happy learning. Thank you.
And as we move forward, today our first session is on the AI in cybersecurity and fraud detection, in which it's going to be all about the integrating the AI with cloud computing and cybersecurity framework, forensic investigation, and detecting the financial crime. To give the opening remarks for this session, I would be inviting on stage our Central Council member, CA Dr. Rajkumar Adukia. Can we all give a great round of applause, please?
Good morning. Vice Chairman CA Umesh Sharma, past council member Manuji, dear friends, I was talking to all colleagues at breakfast. They were saying our artificial intelligence has increased. There is something called NI also, natural intelligence. That also has increased. I understand AI with 3 alphabets. M, D, D. M is machine learning. The algorithm, we understand the subject at a beginning level. Then it is a deep learning. We understand the complex nature of that subject. And third alphabet, D, is the decision. After algorithm and complex, we have a decision making. We have this session, cyber security and fraud detection, and we have 3 moving encyclopedias on this topic. Ms. Nitya Subramanian, Head Data Analytics, Kelanova, Dr. Srinivas Yanamandra from Paytm, and CA Manu Agarwal, past council member. Ms. Nitya Subramanian will be talking on cloud computing and cyber security frameworks for fraud detection, has more than 2 decades experience. Manu Agarwal ji from Kanpur will give insight into integration of AI with cloud computing and investigation. He also carries a very rich experience with him. And we have Dr. Srinivas. We were just talking with him. He first addressed at Baroda in 1997. So we have moved about 3 decades in upskilling of chartered accountants. And he has expertise in fintech policy compliance. I think we will have greater treat for our mind on second day. And we have to keep our hunger increasing to learn more and more artificial intelligence. Looking forward to have a excellent session to begin with second day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting just the right tone for our first session. And now I would be taking the opportunity to invite on stage our moderator for this session. Can we give a great round of applause for CA Manu Agrawal, who's been the past Central Council member of ICAI. And as speaker for this session, I would like to invite Dr. Srinivas Yanamandra, who's the Group Head of the Regulatory Affairs and Policy, PayTM. Can we have a great round of applause, please? Our next speaker, I would like to invite Ms. Nithya Subramaniam, who's the Head of Data and Analytics at Kellogg's AMEA. Can we have a great round of applause? And now I invite CA Sunil Kumar Mandava, who's the Regional Council member of SIRC of ICAI, to kindly come on stage to welcome our moderator and speakers. I request, sir, to kindly welcome our moderator for this session, CA Manu Agarwal. Can we have a great round of applause, please? I now request, sir, to welcome Dr. Srinivas Yanamandra. I now request him to welcome Ms. Nithya Subramaniam. And with that, I would now be handing over this session to our moderator, CA Manu Agarwal.
Thank you, MOC. A very good morning to all. The Central Council member who in the morning introduced the session, Shri Rajkumar Adukia ji, Vice Chairman of the committee, Umesh Sharma ji, and dear guests. Well, friends, cybersecurity and how to use AI to control cybersecurity. Security has changed. Now probably the need to have physical guards or that kind of security has changed in this world. We are more concerned about data because data is the latest treasure which everybody has. 2023, do you know that approximately $23 billion were spent on cybersecurity? Ransomware attacks cost that much. This is the immense threat which is being faced. Today, data is being generated, as we all know, big data. Big data is, the amount of data being generated is tremendous, is unimaginable. And to be able to make that secure, that's a very, very big challenge. Let's see, with the help of these two speakers which we have, two great personalities, how we can use AI to combat that, how the CIOs, the CEOs of today can control this big problem. So first of all, to start with, I would invite Ms. Nithya Subramaniam to come and give her presentation. Welcome to you.
Hi everyone, good morning, and I'm extremely privileged to be standing here and addressing the cream of the CA society in India. A little bit of a submission that I have almost negligible knowledge in CA, but I have, through my experience, gained tremendous amount of expertise in data, AI, now that since we are talking about generative AI, right? And then also the application of that in the areas of cybersecurity and fraud detection intuitively, because, cybersecurity and fraud detection, likewise any other threat to, say, infrastructure or data, pretty much call for similar, if not the same kind of solutions. So here I stand to present in front of you my assessment of how cybersecurity and fraud detection can be made possible in much better way and more effectively and efficiently through data and analytics, and specifically with artificial intelligence. Before I begin, I would like to quote Stefan Napo, right, one of the, cybersecurity gurus, right. He says, and quite pertinently, that it takes 20 years to build a reputation and few minutes of cyber incident to ruin it. And we have seen that in the past with multiple companies, multiple, PSUs, wherein, cybersecurity incidents have not just caused monetary damages, but significant amount of regulatory compliance issues and reputational damages also. Now with that, right, what is the big elephant in the room, right? Why are we so much worried about cybersecurity? Pretty much, right, some of these reasons, like, they just shout out so aloud, right? So financial losses, quite obvious, right? Financial losses at the individual level, financial losses at the company or the corporate level, right? For example, right, we have kind of heard enough of telephone scams like Jumtara, and then, now there's a recent FedEx scam. All of that are targeted at individuals, right, in order to kind of siphon off money. And also, right, and if you talk about huge corporates, right, it's not just about the money lost due to the incident, it's also the amount of money that needs to be spent in order to kind of recover, right, back to the normalcy. And therefore, the financial losses are huge. Apart from that, data breaches, right? Now we are increasingly living in a world of data around us, so much of data, and therefore it becomes imperative that we look at the data privacy and data security with hawk's eye. Whereas, right, there are data breaches still happening as we speak, and they have got immense amount of repercussions, right, in terms of lost trust in the organization which is collecting data. We kind of open the newspaper and we hear about all of these hyperscalers like AWS and Google being summoned on their, measures in order to maintain the data privacy and data security. Reputational damage, as I mentioned, is kind of significant in case of huge corporates, right? If they cannot take care of people's data, what good are they in the business for, right? That's a kind of reputational damage that they get. Operational disruption, right? And of course, until the data breaches are restored, right? I mean, or the security incidents are kind of fixed, there is an operational discontinuity, and that is going to translate into kind of loss of business for the period of time, the operations are discontinued. And legal and regulatory compliance is huge, tremendous millions of dollars spent in those, kind of aftermath in terms of court cases and all other regulatory compliance measures. And then national security, right? It doesn't, data breaches or any of these cyber incidents don't only kind of impact people and corporates, they also impact, national security. There have been instances in the past with governments wherein, the cyber incidents have attacked the power grids, supply systems, especially, a lot of this has happened in the past in Western countries, in US, where all of these public systems are completely interconnected, right? So one ransomware, everything goes down, right? And therefore, right, it's a huge threat to the national public ecosystem and the national security. So this is the kind of, as I said, the big elephant in the room that we are trying to move, right? And therefore, it is important, right? We are not talking something which is irrelevant. So I'm just trying to move the slide, excuse me. Okay, right. And it's not only that, the existing, size of the problem remains, right? The size of the problem is increasing, right? because the complexity of these threats are increasing. Technology is improving and technology is becoming open source. So it is in the hands of not just good actors or the good people or the good corporates, it's also in the hands of bad actors, right? It's also in the hands of the cyber criminals. And the cyber criminals are not only becoming highly sophisticated, they are in some cases also state sponsored, right? So therefore, right, you know, the size of the problem is increasing. The nature of the crime, cyber crime and the fraud is evolving, right? We started with, you know, kind of discrete incidents of hacking, which kind of went into viruses, malware, phishing, smishing, ransomware, etc. Cryptojacking, right? Now that we are in a world of not hard currency, but cryptocurrency, cryptojacking and IoT devices are also getting hacked, right? And now this is a huge sector in itself, right? Organized cyber crime, right? A lot of money in play, right? I was appalled to hear about a term which is cyber crime as a service, CAAS. I mean, what not, right? You know, people are coming with innovation even in these areas of cyber crime. And quantum computing is also going to kind of make it even worse in future. Right now, we do not have much of a quantum compute in action, but when it comes, right, you know, the state-sponsored cyber crime is going to kind of increase. And of course, our traditional systems are highly limited, right? They are kind of all of the linear systems, if I may, which do not deploy AI. They rely a lot on manual vigilance. They are definitely not up to the mark, you know, in this changing landscape. Next slide. What did I miss? Okay. Sorry, I think I seem to be. Okay. Sorry about that. So, well, therefore, right, it's important for instruments like IT ecosystem in an organization to buff up and solve these problems for the organizations, right? So, and therefore, this is a very relevant comment from Richard Clark, which says if you spend more on a coffee than an IT security, you will be hacked. And why not? You deserve to be hacked. Because if you spend more on a coffee than cybersecurity, which means that you don't pay any heed to cybersecurity, you think it's not important. Damn, it's important, right? And you deserve to be hacked. You deserve to lose millions of dollars. And that's a strong statement. So all of the organizations and governments need to think seriously about this and invest the right amount of money in setting up the IT infrastructure and AI systems in order to do that. Now, benefits, kind of, you know, obvious. One is predictive threat maintenance, right? It's not only kind of identify the threat and act upon it, predict the potential of a threat happening. And this can be done by virtue of analyzing a lot of data through the machine learning algorithms, through the AI algorithms to detect the pattern and identify if anomaly is there, right? And other one is real-time monitoring. So as you have your AI intelligence set up, right, you run your regular transactions, your network traffic through these AI systems so that they can, in real time, within milliseconds, be able to identify any current or potential threat. And then reduced incident response time, right? So once you have identified an incident, you know, cybersecurity or a fraud incident, right, the digital forensic is going to kind of give you all of the relevant data for investigation and identifying what the root cause is and go and fix it, right? So therefore, the response time is going to be very limited with the AI systems. And then accuracy is very important, right? So there's something called false positives, right? So which means that, a system identifies an incident or an occurrence as a threat, but it is not a threat. And vice versa, a system really passes a certain incident saying it's a non-threat, but it's actually a threat. So these discrepancies are going to be very much reduced with AI. It is more prominent when, you know, there's a human intervention because it's easy for us to miss and confuse a threat versus a non-threat, whereas an AI system super intelligent in this regard. It will definitely find, given the pattern and the anomaly detection, it'll be more accurate in order to find these threats. And some other benefits, as I mentioned, digital forensics, right? You know, efficiently gathering all of the data. See, all of these are trillions of transactions we are talking about, huge network traffic. It's manually impossible for us to analyze that, and of course the traditional systems are not capable of handling this much of data. So through AI and through the hyperscalers that we are talking about, right, the Googles of the world, the AWSs of the world, the GCPs of the world, the Azures of the world, these are the big hyperscalers, right? So they are capable of scaling up in order to store and you know, process this much of data, right, and give the evidence, right, in case of a digital forensic, and you know, kind of give those data pointers for us to trace back to where that threat arose from. Now, cost efficiency, of course, you know, with AI, you have one AI, whereas you have got a tribe of people doing this manually, still not doing it perfectly. So, you know, there is a lot of cost saving. AI is much cheaper, right, once you kind of implement that. And future proofing, right? AI is scalable, right? You know, as we saw earlier, right? The problem space is evolving. So is AI, right? So AI can adopt, because it's machine learning, it's self-learning, it's self-reinforcing. It can adopt to new problem spaces, right? New kinds of threats, and therefore future proofing our ecosystem. Now, types of AI, we touched upon a little bit about machine learning. Machine learning is a kind of a self-learning system. It looks at the pattern, right, among the data, and then even if the data pattern changes, it's smart enough to identify the changes in the data pattern and adjust itself accordingly. So it's a machine learning onto itself. Deep learning is an emulation of human cognizance, right, or our brain system, right? It's therefore it is called artificial intelligence, right? And this is much more capable of solving more complicated data patterns, right, than machine learning, and it is kind of as good as kind of, you know, a human brain. And today, as we speak, you know, there are multiple types of this, you know, artificial intelligence, convoluted neural networks, which will kind of do image recognition, and then natural language processing, right, which is over here, which is going to kind of process textual information. And we are also talking about synthesis of this through generative AI, right? So a typical application that we can for a CA would be a generative AI bot that can help the CA with any questions related to regulations, you know, any questions related to the processes, etc. And then robotics and reinforcement learning, right? Robotics and reinforcement learning is more kind of, you know, again, kind of learning from the past and the experiences and the mistakes. And blockchain, decentralized ledger mechanism, very useful in case of, you know, identity access management. Right, I'll not delve much because, you know, already kind of short of time. So there are multiple types of cyber attacks I just wanted to touch upon. Malware attacks, phishing attacks, data breaches, password attacks, etc., ransomware, right? And these are some examples where AI can solve some of these. For example, phishing detection. AI can pre-scan the messages before they reach your inbox to find whether they are a phishing email or not based on some patterns. Malware detection, AI can scan your files, right, and your applications to detect if there are malwares. It can also identify system-level vulnerabilities, right, in order to kind of see whether the entire organizational systems, right, different like financial system or you know, their supply chain system, etc., are foolproof. And identity access management, right, securing individual identities, you know, through AI. Intrusion detection, if there is an intrusion in the network, right, in an organizational network, AI can on-spot detect that. And of course, user behavior analysis, right, you know, this is very relevant in case of, when, network traffic is analyzed in per user basis. If there is a difference in the user activity, all of a sudden AI can detect and flag that. Now, some examples of financial fraud, since we are talking about financial frauds also. Credit card fraud, very common. Money laundering, identity theft, and embezzlement, right? So these are different types of frauds. And some examples of how AI can solve credit card, detection, anomaly detection is like if AI is capable of analyzing all of the credit card traffic and finding any anomalous behavior, because there's a certain purchase pattern for every user of that credit card. If there is a certain kind of out of normal activity, it's easy for an AI to detect and flag that. Similarly, identity verification, right? There are so many, KYC, for example, easy for an AI bot to kind of siphon through, or fish through all of the, KYC and identify cases which are kind of problematic, right, etc. And financial transactions anomaly detection like credit card, any financial bank transactions anomaly. Financial risk assessment, which is at a system organized level, the entire banking system, is it secured? AI can do a crawling of the banking system to find whether the system itself is secured and if there are pockets of vulnerability, right? And of course, behavioral analysis here as well in terms of fraud detection. Right, the last point is about the challenges and considerations. So we are talking about a lot of AI systems, but we also know, right, as much as if we have studied about AI, it comes with challenges as well. It in itself can be a problem in terms of data privacy and security, because there's a lot of data involved, right, in building these AI systems. And all of these hyperscalers, they say they store this data securely, but I think, again, a periodic review of the security policy, its enforcement, etc., is very, very important. Ethical implications, we all talk about, responsible AI and ethical AI. There should be unbiased output, right, in terms of, say, loan applications or in terms of credit card applications, etc. Integration complexities. Now, we are, all the major organizations are sitting on a lot of legacy data or legacy systems. The new AI is kind of the new toy in the room, right? And you have to integrate that with your existing mammoth systems, right? Which is a huge, humongous task in itself. It's easier said than done, right? People who do it actually on the ground face a lot of problems, including change management, lack of integration capabilities, etc. High implementation cost, initial cost, I would say that the capital investment is high for AI. And key consideration is to kind of ensuring compliance and having the human in the loop in the beginning is very important, right? So that, AI systems itself doesn't go rogue. And of course, training and education to the staff, right? That's very important. The current staff needs to be trained on how to handle, not just how to develop these AI systems, but also how to use it, right? How to handle any problems that come along with it. Right, and most of those problems are going to be solved by means of cloud computing here. So cloud computing or the hyperscalers, they offer a lot of scalability and flexibility, and that can kind of help us balance our system load. Sometimes the network traffic is less, sometimes it is high. Say that during Diwali time, the credit card transactions are going to be high. So all of this scaling up and scaling down of the compute and the storage capacity can be possible by hyperscalers, and that is going to give you a lot of cost efficiency as well, right? And enhanced data storage and processing, we spoke about. Advanced security features, right? Hyperscalers themselves come with a lot of advanced security features which we can, leverage in our applications. And compliance and governance and all of these, because all of these hyperscalers have to be compliant by the various, laws across the world, right? Policies across the world. So they take care of it mostly, and that burden is not passed on to us in order to kind of reinforce that. Therefore, I think hyperscalers, kind of help in cost, they give more efficiency, and they take care of some of these compliance and regulatory burdens off our shoulders, and all that we got to do is kind of, monitor these hyperscalers or these cloud computing softwares, right, for the applications. That's it, and I leave with what Benjamin Franklin said. an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So please, have this in the back of our mind that every time, just be very cautious that we don't land up into trouble. Don't answer the FedEx calls. Just report that because, security, right, and the prevention of that starts from us and then it moves outwards. Thank you so much.
So friends, that was a nice presentation on the enormity of the task at hand and how it can be handled through AI and what are the possible solutions. So on the same topic, we have another speaker, Dr. Srinivas. I invite him for his deliberation.
So good morning, everyone. So there is a saying in Bhagavad Gita, "Yadi acharati shresthaha, etat evetaro itarajanaha." So whatever the best do and follow, the rest of the crowd will also follow. On this count, I'd like to congratulate the best of the crowd in the CA community sitting at the helm of the affairs of the institute, the council members, and also the regional leadership team who brought an impeccable event like this. And I'm sure we are going to learn a lot from the proceedings of this event in the yesterday's session and also in today's session. On the same count, when we talk about the best is not only on the side of the profession, but there is also best on the side of the crime. So unless we know what is the best crime that is possible, it will be difficult for us to understand what is the best prevention possible. Now, what is the way in which the crime is moving towards its best? So from the digital world, we have seen the crimes happening. Then we have seen the cyber world, the crimes happening. And today, we are going to see the virtual worlds where the crimes are even going to be the bestest of the crimes that we have seen. So I'm going to give you a peek into these best crimes that can happen so that we are all aware about how the future is going to look like in respect of the crimes, especially in the world called as metaverse. And the motivations of this thing is basically because I'm a compliance professional. I have been working in this field for about 23 years. And apart from that, I have an academic bent of mind in terms of understanding whatever is happening in the fintech industry for the past 5-6 years. And when I see the developments that are happening at a fast pace, from the cryptocurrencies, from the virtual worlds, from the NFTs, the world has changed so much. And this virtual world, the metaverse, has caught my attention as a research topic. And there are 3 strands of research I'm trying to understand how metaverse is going to change the policy and also the legal implications that we are familiar with, how metaverse is going to become more challenging for the law enforcement authorities, how metaverse is going to also blow up our mind from a philosophical context. So these are the 3 research strands that I'm working. So I would like to share in the next few minutes some learning that I have got from this research so that we'll all be prepared into that future world of the crimes in metaverse. And a small disclaimer, the views that are expressed here are purely my own views and does not represent my organization. So what we are going to do, next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about the financial crimes meeting metaverse and what are the types of financial crimes that we are going to see in metaverse and what are the major challenges with respect to data and also the law enforcement in metaverse. Next slide, please. So the recent advancements of AI, we are having, no, I think. The previous slides, please. Previous. Yeah. So basically, when we are talking about metaverse, we are talking about a virtual immersive experience. So far, we have been accustomed to only two sensory perceptions. The visual sense, basically what we see, and the auditory sense, which is basically what we hear, which is what has dominated the web so far. But with metaverse, there are these manipulations of the other senses that are going to happen, which is basically haptics, the way you feel when you are doing an online surfing or a browsing or online gaming. Haptics is going to be another sense. Gustatory sense, how do you taste? There are like feelers of the taste getting created in metaverse for shopping. And there is this olfactory sense, which is basically the sense of smell that can get produced, which will make all the experiences in metaverse as the more immersive experience. And what will happen with these immersive experiences? We enter into a world where we encounter something called as a non-player characters. And these are the characters which we will find who will help us understand what is this immersive experience all about. And companies can use it for the purpose of training, onboarding, product demonstrations, and also the customer service perspective. These non-player characters will help us in navigating through the metaverse. And these non-player characters are going to be as realistic as possible because of the face and also the motion scanning technologies that we are having. And these people with the large language models, in fact, the way they speak looks like resembling that you are talking to another natural human being in the metaverse. And with this entire amount of technology that we are talking, if it is powered by neurotechnology, the neurotechnology that we are seeing is in terms of the brain research, how the neurofeedback makes us purchase something, how the neurosimulators, which are called as deep brain stimulation, all those deep brain stimulation going to make you do some things which you might not actually want to do. So there is a world, which is a virtual world, and there is a avatar, which is basically a non-player character which can help you navigate that, and you yourself can become into an immersive experience. And there is a neurotechnology which is going to power all these experiences that is going to make the immersive experience of metaverse really undistinguishable from the actual reality. Next slide, please. So when this happens, so what is the way in which the crime can happen? Because in metaverse, you have got the properties to be purchased. The properties are called as non-fungible tokens at this stage, and you can purchase parcels of land, for example, buildings, for example. And why would anyone like to purchase any of this stuff? Because the celebrities are going to do these NFT purchases, and there are land parcels sold on metaverse platforms like Roblox or Decentraland. And when a celebrity purchases some building in a metaverse, most of the people get crazy to get the building next to that virtual building that is there in metaverse. And this is true. Snoop Dogg, who is a world-famous rapper and also the producer, when he purchases, say, for example, something in virtual world, there is a premium attached to the virtual property next to the property he has purchased. And in a similar way, what you will do with the property that is purchased on metaverse, you may like to give it on rent. Like today we are having the conference in Shilpakala Vedika, but when you are doing this entire event in a metaverse, you can give your virtual property on rent to some of these events that can be organized, and this is how the people are getting crazier to learn in terms of the new purchase options, and also to buy, sell, and lease the properties in virtual world. And you can do it with cryptocurrency like Ethereum, or you can do something like a native currencies like the sand coin in the sandbox, for example. And these are purchased through certain digital wallets which have the capabilities to hold non-fungible tokens, NFTs, in wallets that are called as like MetaMask wallet or Binance platforms, where you can purchase virtual properties. And these are all costing millions of dollars when you purchase in metaverse. And what will happen next? You will enter into some avatars, which is basically your digital representation into the metaverse. And when you take an avatar, most of the gamers would know, our avatar, whatever we choose, psychologically it is proven that we tend to behave the way our avatars are presented. Like if you take the if you choose, say, for example, a face of a criminal as an avatar, you tend to behave like that. If you take your display picture, say, for example, as something which is somber, or which is something pleasant, you try to behave in the same way in the metaverse. And psychologically, the choice of these avatars are also going to have an effect on how you behave in metaverse, which is called as the Proteus effect. And that is going to also influence the behavior of the people when they get into the virtual spaces. And with all these things, the properties that we are purchasing, the data that is getting tracked, and the kind of avatars that are getting more and more intelligent, because the avatars have become from realistic avatars, which is what we have seen in our iPhones, when we have the display pictures which look more like us. Those are realistic avatars. They're hyper-realistic avatars when you get into say for example, a metaverse with all these motion and body capturing, the avatars becomes hyper-realistic avatars or cybernetic avatars, which is basically the robo-surgery when you do. This robot there represents a physical, your avatar there on the other side, that is cybernetic avatar. And all these avatars with the AI advancements are becoming much more robust and also much more real-like. And these are all going to generate enormous amount of the data about the person behind the avatar. So the way we look at it, the way we move, the way our motion sensors getting captured, the way we gaze, the way our visual, emotional feelings are detected on our face, everything gets tracked, which becomes a challenge in terms of the data privacy and also the law enforcement. So we go to some of the crimes in metaverse. Next slide, please. So one of the important crimes, or rather one of the most important issues, I don't know how many of you have seen the non-fungible token called as a bored ape. A bored ape is nothing but a virtually generated algorithm which is generating certain images of bored apes. It is like a boring monkey faces actually. And there is a super craze in respect of purchasing these bored ape non-fungible tokens. And each of these bored ape has been sold for around $2 lakh. And any person who holds this will get an exclusive access to certain online clubs. They also get an exclusive access to certain virtual events. And there also becomes a kind of an elite club called as Bored Ape Club. And this is one of the fashion that has captured the internet in the last 2-3 years, when the thing has been launched by Yuga Labs, a blockchain company. And there were 10,000 of these NFTs actually. And each of these ape characters are unique, with the facial features being unique. Either it could be their fur color, either it could be their background color, or the way the eyes beam, or the laser things coming out of their eyes. Each of these things have driven people crazy in the world. And people have spent enormous amount of money because there are only 10,000 apes that are generated by this AI algorithm. But what happened? Last 2 years, when the price was around 2 lakhs, people purchased. And in the recent times, the price has fallen down to $30,000. And people started bringing up a class action suit in California because so much celebrity endorsements have gone, like Paris Hilton, Madonna, Justin Bieber. Everybody has purchased, and including the now defamed FTX founder who has invested in this company. And these are the kind of NFTs that will generally get into the metaverse, luring the people into purchasing some of these things at a hyperinflated price, only to understand after some days, this is not going to be the kind of worth that you initially thought it could be. Next slide, please. Apart from we purchasing something as an NFT, there are also possibilities in terms of avatars also doing certain crimes actually. Are crimes happening against the avatar itself? Say, for example, if there is an avatar, which is like basically a human avatar, there are ways in which we have seen this avatar is going to get sometimes getting physically assaulted, or maybe it is physically abused. And there are events that are happening in this world where people are complaining about the way in which they're getting harassed in terms of the hate speech, in terms of the defamation, in terms of the sexual harassment. And the metaverse companies are taking cognizance of this and are coming out with new features like a kind of a bubble, which is basically the space within the avatar's vicinity so that the people cannot touch the avatar. Otherwise, the kind of emotional trauma that these avatars are undergoing, or because of the avatars people are undergoing in metaverse, is also dramatic. Apart from this, even there are also breaches that can happen which are of tort in nature. Your virtual property can be vandalized, it can be destroyed. Somebody can cyber attack and then get into complete changing of your virtual records and stole these records. And there are like things that we need to be mindful of, how these metaverse companies are going to give protection in terms of those kind of breaches of tort. So these are the crimes against the avatars and also by the avatars, which are going to be the order of the future if the crime enters into, or rather when the crime enters into metaverse. Next slide, please. And then we have got, there are several neurotech advancements, as I have mentioned. These technologies are ranging from active way the neurotechnology data gets collected. Say, for example, the way you are using your iPhone is a treasure trove of your data, which is basically about physical data, health data. But when you get into BCI, brain-computer interfaces, which is the most important way you are going to access metaverse, the treasure trove of the neuro data can become more active. And also there could be sometimes passive data that they consume. And also whether there could be local way of connecting these things, maybe through the gaming that you are going to do, or somebody secretly monitoring your activities from a remote location. invasive ways and non-invasive ways. And also the technologies are becoming so sophisticated that they can either record your brain activity or also manipulate your brain activity. One cool example is people have discovered, neuroscientists, that there is a wave called as P300 wave in our brain, which typically is responsible for our memory. So when you stimulate this P300 wave, you'll be able to know what is that you remember in the past. So online gamers, there is an experiment carried out in Western countries where they have shown for an online gamer some of the credit card pins. And while he is gaming, he doesn't know that he is getting shown some of these numbers. So subtly, when a person is playing a game, he will be shown his credit card or a debit card pin, and the P300 wave brain detection can immediately spark if the pin number is actually related to his actual number that he is getting used. So these are the new ways in which we are going to steal the data from the persons without even other person getting know because of the advancements in the neurotechnology. And that combination of the confluence of neurotechnology with virtual technology with augmented reality is going to be the order of the future crimes in metaverse. Next slide, please. So what are the challenges that we are talking if this is the case of the crimes in metaverse? Next slide, please. So far we have been only talking about, in fact, everybody is eagerly waiting for this Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which is talking about data privacy. But the world has moved fast. While we as law enforcement agencies are only talking about data privacy, the crimes are occurring at a mental privacy level. And that is called as the right of cognitive liberty. Do we have the authority or do we have the capacity to take decisions on our own? When you enter into the virtual world, your brain is at the disposal of the machine. Your brain is at the disposal of this virtual world. Your brain is at the disposal of the avatars next to you. So the cognitive liberty, the liberty to take a cognitive decision using your own brain, gets totally lost. So to preserve the cognitive liberty is one of the neuro-human rights that the people are advocating, which is one component of mental privacy. Mental integrity, basically the decisions that you take should be at your own disposal. No other person should have the ability to influence you to take a particular decision, but metaverse will not let you do that. When you are in a virtual shopping space, the way you get influenced to purchase certain things by using certain trackers behind you will take away the level of your mental integrity. And there is something called as psychological continuity as a concept of mental privacy. Psychological continuity is basically the decisions we take today with our mental faculties should lead to the decisions that we take tomorrow. There is a psychological continuity. But with metaverse, there are some of these things that can happen which can erase your past experiences, which the criminals can most willingly use to take it as a kind of vulnerability in the metaverse activity that we're trying to do. So the concept of privacy will enhance from the data privacy to what we call as the mental privacy. And UNESCO is now coming out with a new policy documentation on neuro-human rights to talk about the cognitive liberty, mental integrity, and also the psychological continuity as one of the human rights that we need to talk about in this next world. Next slide, please. And for law enforcement agents, the criticality is like when an avatar commits a crime, now it has got an artificial agency. We are only talking about artificial intelligence, but artificial agency. Most of our chartered accountant friends know we start our career in CA studying the commercial law, Solomon versus Solomon. The legal entity is different from the individual. Now, if you can apply the same thing, is our virtual avatar different from the individual behind the virtual avatar? So can a person be punished for an activity committed by their avatar in the metaverse? So there are legal aspects in terms of giving a personhood to the artificial intelligence avatars. Can avatar have a legal personality? And why do avatar need to have a legal personality? Because tomorrow if something happens to, say, for example, the virtual property, or if there is some property that is created, who is going to get the intellectual property? So there is a positive side of creating a virtual personhood and also the personhood to the artificial intelligence for the purpose of protecting instrumentality, how legally these activities can be performed on virtual worlds, and also for the purpose of punishing the people. Like tomorrow if something untoward behavior happens in the world, then how are we going to punish the people? To determine the accountability also, we need to have legal personhood for the artificial intelligence. Now these are the concepts which our law enforcement agencies have to really get on and understand to how much extent the verdict that we have in Solomon versus Solomon case might be or can be replicated to a virtual avatar, a virtual Srinivas versus a regular Srinivas. So what are the kind of differences that we can have is something, a food for thought for the law enforcement agencies. Next slide, please. So basically, to sum up, so there are recent advancements of AI which are shaping up the metaverse, and these are making financial crimes much more sophisticated in metaverse. And there are some illustrative financial crimes that we have seen, like the non-fungible tokens, virtual spaces, avatars committing crimes. So these are all the new things that will come up, and these will lead to unauthorized processing of data. In DPDP Act, we are going to talk about data processors. Now, if you are going to talk about neuro data processing, so where are these data processors coming to, and to what extent our existing law can take care of these neuro data processors is some of these challenges that we are going to encounter in the coming days. And these are posing challenges or will pose challenges to the law enforcement in terms of punishing these and also making the virtual world a more safer world. So to conclude, we all learned Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrichorma Amritangamaya. So lead us from what is unreal to real. So this is more relevant when you get into virtual reality. Lead us from what is unreal to real. And Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, lead us from ignorance to the enlightenment, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, and Mrichorma Amritangamaya, from mortality to immortality, so that there is a persistence and there is a continuity in the virtual world that we are going to operate. And that is what we should pray for, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, and Mrichorma Amritangamaya in the virtual world. Thank you.
So I think we need a big round of applause for the two speakers. Well, friends, one thing used to trouble me and now I think must be troubling many of you. Why such a session on cybersecurity in a conference of chartered accountants? What's it for us? Just for information? Or is there any opportunity? Well, friends, I firmly believe there is a big opportunity. What we were talking about was frauds, financial frauds, and wherever money is involved, chartered accountants are automatically involved. Now, who understands frauds? Well, Madam spoke about prevention being better than cure. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Well, who can cure this? We as chartered accountants can actually decipher or try to put those preventive measures in the system. We can be the advisors who will detect this fraud before it happens, who will detect those pattern changes, who will at the first instance be able to tell, yes, a fraud is happening. Now, we may think that it's an engineer's job. It could be an engineer's job, but with collaboration of a chartered accountant. I was talking to Dr. Srinivas. Today, what is happening? The changes are so fast that when you start learning it, it has already become obsolete. So this is what is happening. So it's not that we chartered accountants cannot take a lead in this, cannot carve out a career in this, cannot find this as an opportunity. We have to learn this. And for learning this, both our Digital Accounting and Assurance Board has a course in cybersecurity. This new course which this committee has launched, AI course, also has some portion of cybersecurity. But best what we can do is we can learn it, we can collaborate with engineers, we can collaborate with people who know about technology and make a good living out of this, or this pie is so big that we should have our share in it. So I believe, and well, 10 years back or 5 years back or 3 years back, who could have dreamt of a conference where there's no income tax, no company law, no GST law? Only 2 days of technology. So times are changing, and with the changing times, we also need to change. We also need to go into these new opportunities and find a career there. With this, I thank both the speakers once again for their wonderful deliberations, and thank you for a patient hearing. Thank you. Okay, and now I think we'll be starting the survey questions, and we have both of the speakers to answer those questions and see what the responses were.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. I hope all of you have opened your WhatsApp community group and filled the feedback survey form. Your answers are very integral to us actually analyzing what our audience feels. Over to you, sir.
You can take the question and give your comments. The first question is
Which area of cybersecurity do you think AI can most effectively improve?
And the answer is threat detection and response.
Threat detection and response. These are the survey responses
Yes,
coming from, which is quite intuitive, right? Threat detection and response is all encompassing, right? Threat in multiple shapes and forms, right? And therefore, this is in general what we anticipate. And close contender is predictive risk and analytics. I would rather say that is something very, very kind of the need of the hour right now, to be able to predict.
The next question.
Well, next question.
Which AI application do you think has the most potential in fraud detection?
I think my response would also go with the audience, the user behavior analytics, the way we have seen.
It's now changing.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah, I think it's still
automated
26.9.
alerts responses.
So behavior analytics is the most important thing, which is, again, a treasure trove of data, as I have mentioned, both for the people who want to prevent the crime and who also want to perpetrate the crime. So the research goes in terms of how do you do much more behavior analysis as such. I tend to agree. I think still it's the lead contender.
Yes. Okay, the next.
And in fact, that is the reason for most of us are data getting vulnerable, because the more you have the data, the more you can track the behavior, which is useful for both the criminals and also for the people who want to prevent them.
Sure, the next one. Data privacy. What do you consider the biggest challenge in integrating AI with cloud computing and cybersecurity frameworks? Quite obviously, data privacy and security. Thank you for reconfirming my point of view also. Yes, data privacy and security, but I mean, if I were to ask my honest opinion, this is a legacy of the past, that we think that moving data onto the cloud is kind of compromising the data privacy and security, which still continues, right? The ghosts of the past, right? They take time to fade off. But honestly, the cloud providers are becoming smarter, and they are ensuring that data privacy and security are given utmost importance, right? Zero trust is their policy. Right, so this is definitely going to be solved, but yeah, appreciate your concern.
I think I'll tend to add, I think even lack of skilled professionals also is another important thing. As I was speaking with CM Anuji, while we think that we are going to get a kind of a skill set in a particular technology, the technology is becoming obsolete. We started with data analytics. By the time we design a course and launch the course, there is this predictive data analytics will come. By the time we launch this, there are these LLMs that are coming. And when we try to understand what LLMs are trying to do, they're getting integrated into the business applications. And we're trying to understand what is happening. Then there is a crime that is already perpetrated. Then there is a neuro thing that is coming up. So the kind of space is moving at such a fast pace that to keep up to the challenge and then trying to give some kind of upskilling to the existing professionals, and also most of our curriculums, which we see, when I teach in a lot of these business schools, I find these curriculums are like completely outdated. When I say outdated, it means 1 year old. 1 year old is becoming completely outdated, because with the kind of new products that are coming up in the fintech spaces that we are seeing, whatever you learned yesterday becomes obsolete today. So you have to be actually upskilling yourself better than the criminal if you are thinking about the fraud detection, but that's not happening. So I feel, apart from privacy and security, the most important challenge is because of the lack of, or rather the upskilling that is needed for the professionals.
This is no-brainer.
This is everybody will say.
You can move on to the next one.
So I will be saying, like, somewhat confident. Because unless we know this, as they say, there are 4 things, right? There is unknown, unknown, known, unknown, and known, known, and so basically these are the kind of things. We don't know what we don't know. Especially in a cyber world, when there is a deep web that is there, when there is a dark web that is there, a lot of the people doesn't even know what exactly happens there. Most of us even have not entered into our HoloLens, or maybe we have not even got our virtual goggles so far. So if we don't know that, I'm 100% sure that we don't know what exactly is going to happen there. So some of these things that are happening in that world could be mind-blowing. So I will be confident to a certain extent if I know what the problem I am facing. But the problem that we are facing itself is an unknown. So it's like a kind of a dynamite that we are attacking. It's like a minesweep game, actually. So I'll be confident to a certain extent. But whether this is the only technology, in fact, AI is like a larger term for various technologies as such. So which part of the AI is going to like transform, which part of the AI is going to be obsolete, we are not very sure at this stage. But criminals are making best use of it.
And with that, we would successfully concluding this session. I would like to thank our wonderful moderator and our brilliant speakers. Thank you so much for sharing with us your insights. And now I would like to call upon stage CA Girdhari Lal Toshniwal, who's the Secretary of the Hyderabad branch of ICAI, and CA K. Ramarao, who's the Management Committee member of the Hyderabad branch of SIRC of ICAI, to please come on stage and felicitate our moderator for this session, CA Manu Agarwal. Can we give a great round of applause, please? And now, right now, we're felicitating Ms. Nitya Subramanian. I now request them to felicitate Dr. Srinivas Yanamandra. A great round of applause, please. And I now request them to felicitate our moderator, CA Manu Agarwal. I would once again like to thank all of them